It baffles me that Minecraft doesn't have a better in-game source for the esoteric bullshit you need to understand to do basic gameplay things. I don't even think that was a deliberate design decision. More so, I feel like it was just laziness born out of its protracted early access development, before that term was even a thing. And as such, it became an expected part of the community. In fact, the necessity for an external resource for such information probably helped build that community. The need for people to create a wiki just to understand how to play the game fostered a strong core player base built on those types of collaborative interactions. It's just too bad that the game never, grew up out of that stage. It feels as though it's perpetually stuck in this throw as much stuff as we can at the wall and see what sticks mentality, while also being this giant tentpole of gaming culture where Microsoft, of all people, are micromanaging every little detail to make sure that it maintains its broad audience appeal. That makes it a super weird beast of a thing. Specifically, I'm talking less about crafting recipe type stuff, and more like, under what conditions do mobs spawn? Or how are chunk boundaries affecting things? How do the basics of enchanting tools work? What's the spawning nature of villages, fortresses, or other structures? Hell, is there even an in-game resource for how redstone works? Or are you expected to buy a book, of which I've seen so many at like Walmart or Costco, just to begin to understand that sort of thing? I bet you, any given kid these days probably knows how to make a pickaxe before they know how to write their full name. Okay, so that last point I will acknowledge as some hyperbolic old man grumbling. On one hand, I love esoteric nonsense in video games. That is like super my jam. The world of the play space having these fuzzy edges where people poke at and explore them and see what is possible is really appealing from a design point of view. At the same time, that sort of design has become different in a post-game facts world, where brute force experimentation and hive mind cataloging has kind of robbed these interactions of their mystery. So I get wanting to preserve some of that in what could be considered the most popular example of the medium of all time. On the other hand, I think it's a terrible practice when applied to literally all aspects of the design, as Minecraft seems okay with doing, because it limits usability and presents a huge hurdle for those not in the know. And that onboarding process of learning mechanics through experimentation is something I think that games can excel at and can be one of the medium's primary strengths. So to see that potential wasted with, okay, before you can really begin to enjoy this work, I need you to read this mini textbook written collectively and without actual oversight, is lame. Like, reading SCP or TV tropes is an activity in and of itself. Sitting down and watching lore breakdowns of Soulsborne games is a different kind of thing, and then expecting me to go wiki diving to understand how to remove Silk Touch from my Fortune pickaxe, or if that's even a thing I can do, is something else entirely. You can read on a wiki that the magic defense stat in Final Fantasy VI is bugged and doesn't affect the thing you think it does, or you can figure that out through experimentation and careful observation. Or you can just ignore it and still engage with the game more or less unaffected by this one quirk. Whereas how villager interactions work in Minecraft and under what circumstances they will spawn or reproduce is a pillar of gameplay, a significant chunk of the expression of play for some people, and has a decent amount of resources dedicated to its systems, and none of it is explained anywhere in the text itself. The experience for a first-time user with zero knowledge of how the game functions is to likely miss a large swath of in-game content or just bounce off it completely due to the frustrating and grind-heavy trial and error required to actually quote-unquote solve some of the game's quote-unquote puzzles. I would say the core appeal of Minecraft is creative expression first and foremost, with the mastery of the knowledge of its systems a distant second. If it was the other way around, and the general public really did hunger for bashing their head against obtuse interactions to see what actually unlocked progress, games like Rem would be a #1 bestseller. I guess what I'm trying to get at is Minecraft's position as one of the most universally recognizable and understood games in modern culture has allowed far more leeway with how much literacy the general audience is expected to have with it. As such, while I appreciate opaque gameplay interactions at the edges of the play space, I think that it is generally bad design practice to make even the most basic interactions with the majority of the game's systems esoteric and require outside knowledge, not found concretely explained or described in-game. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, I guess.